I was working as a doula for a long time with birth attorneys.
Yes.
Yeah, how's things?
Good.
Nice.
You didn't do it. That would be so long ago.
No, but I kind of forget. We're in a very similar boat. So I have 20, well, they're all going to have birthdays. So they'll be 14, and 4. Oh, and 4. Yeah, I don't know. I kind of lost my mind. And now I'm at a parenting workshop.
Yeah.
I was like, all right, now it's time to get my act together.
Yeah, right. You'll learn that you've done 90% right, and then a little bit, I guess we can do better.
We'll see. Yeah.
We'll see.
Actually, let's have a raise of hands. How many people have had 5 or more visits on a pontificate from the
I don't know. Maybe you don't. Yeah, just maybe anybody else. Are you going to put it There's a nice floor space there for you.
Yeah, if you want to. Sure, you're welcome to.
I can text Justina and see if there's still.
Yeah.
If anybody wants water, it's just outside at the entrance where you were, and if you need bathrooms, it's all the way around.
Okay, can you solve the mystery for us, please? We're asking Charlie, like, how did you hear ReTribe? He was like,
About it. So I just graduated from Johnson with my master's in counseling. So that's Mama. And so friends, I think I just heard about it from another friend, Eric.
so it's going to remain a mystery.
Do you guys know?
Then Watley?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I think he might, or at least I know he's come here and he was like, and it might, or I might have even heard about it from the Perlines. But they're instructors there. But yeah, I sort of just been like, heard about it and then you can come. So something.
Well, the thing is, Charlie's really right here.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, like, we need a couple, we need some other people,
Small group, which is nice.
Yeah, we'll see if she's driving. She may not answer. Oh, she said she just got here.
She just got here. Okay, let's wait 30 seconds.
This is a spacious house. Isn't it?
Yeah. I have questions.
Wow.
Well, I'm trying to think I'm thinking of the years when I coached. Other people that are authority figures as adults, where that fits in. Because
Yeah, but there's sort of like that word respect. But why are they? Because I said so, or because, wow, I really respect.
Right. Yeah.
I was sitting with 18-year-olds who like, they came yesterday, but then we find out yesterday. And we were talking about one of them did how to go out in the world kind of thing. How to not be big. This person was about not being a dick. And I was talking about this teacher. And they got this very small school, and it was just like had a problem with the teacher. They were kind of like, oh, that's the problem with this teacher. I'm like, what's going on? Well, the other teachers are chill. Teachers are like, well, this teacher was like, this is what we're doing. They didn't mind what he wanted to do. They just minded the way that. So then I pulled up this.
Can you get any
teams were
length on the
passing it
cord?
on my
I think it's the
computer
cord
around the
that's
table.
pulling it.
Like, yeah.
Yeah, but I
That's it.
think that
That's it.
maybe we just don't need this chair at all.
We
Do we
come to
know
the
any more
workshop.
people are coming? Two more. Okay, so that one's gonna be
You said
available.
people just arrived.
Yeah, we'll be fine.
Just even,
Just one person.
I think 2.
Is it warm enough in here now? The edges are warm.
The edges, like the cold edge.
Yeah,
Or something.
it is.
I don't know.
It's chilly.
But it's not like.
It's right here.
Okay.
Yeah, blanket anyone? Something?
Hey, how are ya?
Hello.
Crackers on my way here to the car and saw the water. Yeah.
I need to move the computer, so I have to sit here.
Oh,
Yeah, you know.
Yeah, so you
Yeah.
can sit where you are, just, or
you
here.
want to lean on, want to be on the floor and pillows against the couch? Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, right here. And sit.
So you also went south and then north. You also went south first, huh?
Oh, yes, indeed.
So let's do a circle with this name and why word. Like right there in that little house. And then she's not really, she's,
Wait, don't break mine. Like I'm gonna talk about myself.
yeah, I'm expressing my
Not break my cover.
gratitude for this non-human angel that she's just an answer to prayers. Okay. And I am here because I have this passion about children and psychology of children and that have sort of the same need around the relationship with parents and me. So this program I'm doing right now is part of the larger part of the schools. So I thought I'll just offer it.
I'm Howard. Julia came to my theater camp, Adventure Game Theater, so Adventure Game more with the teams and coach. And I have very much a similar interest. I do trainings with teachers on conscious communication, how to have I care deeply about creating more wholesome, caring, loving experiences. I want to continue to learn from James. And some traits.
I'm Justina, and mother of 3 teenagers. A son who's 15, a daughter who's 14, and another son who's 13. So I can basically just use all of them. I was a really and had a really difficult time with the adults in my life when I was 11. And said I wouldn't have kids until I figured out what I would do. So my oldest Charlie is here, and a 7-year-old. So yeah, I'm a lot. Yeah. We're getting ready for the next stage. So yeah, looking for support, that, and I also just, like I was saying, like I've heard about ReTribe's, and I just think it's wonderful. I did study theater out of high school, and I've also been a student teacher for a long time. I did a vision class when I was in high school, so I just love all of the different things. For us to access. You get your big here. Sure. Sounds really fun.
Hi, my name is Alona. I'm not a parent. I'm here helping with this stuff. I also have some basic training in NVC and all of that stuff. So if I can help out in any way, then I'm happy to do that. But otherwise, feel free to ask questions about all this stuff, or if you need some technical support here, then that's what I'm here for. And we do have one more person online. And I wish I knew how to put her up there, but I can't. But maybe you can introduce herself and we can just hear you out.
Sure. My name is Kelly, and I'm the parent of 2 teens. And I didn't hear what any of you were saying because it's all mumbled, except for you. You're really super clear.
Because I'm
So,
right.
yeah. And I don't know, is there anything you were asking for us to share?
Oh yeah, why you're here?
Oh, just, to gain more knowledge on parenting teens, because I love working with Jane. So.
And you said, Kelly, you said you have 2 teenagers?
I do, 16 and 18.
16 and 18. Are any of them here today?
Not present for this meeting, no, but in the house, yes, and leaving shortly.
Okay, cool. Thanks, Kelly.
Thank you. What? And I'm sorry I didn't get your name.
My name is Alona, and maybe after we complete, we once again go around and everybody will call out their name so we can get
Okay.
with each other and you can hear that a little more.
Super, thank you.
Okay. I'm Jenna. I also have, here, do you want me to kind of hold that so she can see me? Is that what you're doing?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Hi, Kelly. I don't know if you can see me or not.
I can see you.
My kids, as I mentioned, are mostly already teenagers. And one has come here, and I've just been really thankful for support and the perspective and the resources here that Miles has received. And so just looking for a little edge or a little insight into how to continue that. I had what I thought was an amazing relationship with, so I also have been a foster parent. So my 23-year-old is not the first child I've seen come out of teen years. And with him thought that we really had something going, and now he's 23 and we're doing some of that really typical teen stuff. So I'm like, crap.
Yeah.
So yeah, just like looking for, I don't know, anything new, anything they might have missed, and some camaraderie.
Mm-hmm.
I'm Emily. I have a 15-year-old daughter. And I think for me, well, having a 15-year-old daughter just feels really big to me. And I'm a very anxious person, so recognizing that a lot of that to me is infused with my own anxiety, and I'm seeing the negative impact that's having on my daughter, and she's also been very that is having on her. So I feel like dialogue-wise, she's an amazing kid, and I feel like I would love to be more confident because everything
I'm not.
Sorry, the ocean would get smashed.
It's a workshop.
Okay.
It's not okay.
Can that fan go down one more level? I think it might be easier for Kelly to get a lot of background.
Well, if we
We'll keep it going.
then we could be warm and
Just want the fan to go down a notch. Still push out.
because warm enough.
It's chilly, but I'm okay.
As I was saying, this workshop is part of a whole school many years.
Before you go, can we just go again around with names so that we know
Sure.
each other? And Kelly, if Kelly can, if you can tune in, and
Yes.
if you can see others, I'll try to point you so you can see who people are.
Okay. For some reason, it's teeny tiny, but okay.
I'm Howard.
Hello.
Justina. I'm Sienna.
Hi.
I'm Rebecca.
Madeline.
Alona.
Jenna.
Emily.
Jane. Jane.
Hello, everyone.
So I wanted to get your permission because we want to tape record this for. Oh, hi. Molly, yay. For training for the social harmony program. Is that okay with everyone? And if you want to ask a question that you'd rather we turn it off, I want to tell Alona, oh, you turn off and then ask your question. Bruce is be very happy. Herself said, I mean, why were you? Oh, sorry, that's why I'm here.
Hopefully going to.
Okay, so I'm going to launch right in. I'm going to launch and I'm going to launch. This quote is the point of what we're doing today, and it was verified. I was telling some of them that two of the 18-year-old ReTribe kids were talking about their lives and their school and the teachers that they're about, and how I said, oh, let me show you my slide, and they all passed it around. Yeah, so I feel very good about this slide. Authority as an educational principle no longer applies with the onset of puberty. The young person wishes to acknowledge older people as leaders through friendship. A great deal of misery at family life is caused by parents retaining their authoritarian attitude when their children have reached puberty and they do not succeed in guiding them in friendship. Quite rightly, the child now experiences authority as an insult to personality. So that's what we're going to work on, how to move from authority to guidance. So the plan today is to do this in 3 stages. This, like I said, is part of social harmony, this workshop, and there's sort of this other workshop that's sort of a prerequisite to this one. So I'm going to pull the principles out of that workshop, Cliff Notes style, throw them at you, and then, and so don't worry too much about really deeply getting it. It's just, we'll probably keep referring back to them, these little ideas. And then the second part will be, since we're such a small group, I don't want to lecture at you. But I thought what I'll do is I'll put the ideas in the middle of the floor, and you guys will figure out amongst yourselves what this group of ideas mean. And then the third part will be, I have a game that you pull a little scenario out of there, and then you go, okay, for this scenario. That's the thing for the day. Everybody knows there's bathrooms at the end of the hall. Okay. So I want to give you this first concept, which is about our psyche. This is our psyche. Okay. There's me. I like cake. want to eat the whole cake. If you eat the whole cake, you'll get sick. Or it might be this. What the heck is wrong with you wanting to eat the whole cake? Okay. Sometimes it's like, okay, so my daughter, I guess 2 days ago, called, my little daughter actually, called, and she got a residency in Oregon, and she is my heart, you know, so like part of me was like, yes, this is perfect residency for her. She's going to be so happy, and her boyfriend's such a lovely family there. And part of me was just, like, okay, so you could get the idea that inside of you, you might be sort of against one part of you, and one part of you the opposite, almost a polarization. So let's do a really quick dive. Will you find a situation in your life where part of you was pulling the cart east and part of you was pulling the cart west? And we got Diane and maybe Kevin can go with you.
Sure.
And talk for like 2 minutes and then switch and then talk.
So what are we talking about?
You're saying a situation, tell about the situation, and say one part of me wanted this, or this other part of me wanted this, or one part of me said this, and another part of me said that. Is it making sense? Feeling how it is to be against yourself. Oh.
Hey, Kelly.
Hi.
Hey.
I can't hear very well.
Oh, I see. We'll need to figure
I
that.
mean, I can hear you, but like everybody in the room is jumbled, sort of.
Yeah, it's there's noise around. But the task right now, and you and I are working in a dyad, is to reflect on the situation where you felt torn. On the one hand, you were feeling something, and on the other hand, you were feeling something else, and kind of sharing, observing these two things and holding them. So I wonder if you have any situation that has arisen recently that was of that kind that you'd like to share.
Feeling one thing and saying another. I don't.
When you were on the one hand, how about I start and you just listen? And
okay, that sounds good.
I will model for you. So when I was, when a friend asked me to meet with him, I was feeling torn because on the one hand, I realized that he was going through a transition in life, and I wanted to be there and supportive of him and allocate the time and make sure that I'm there, I'm present, and just kind of paying it forward type thing, just sort of being there for him. And on the other hand, I was feeling that there's part of me that doesn't quite connect with this person. And sometimes I feel annoyed by this person because maybe they talk too much or whatnot. So there was this other part of me that was like, do you really have to be there? Maybe like you could just talk with them over the phone. It's gonna be a lot shorter, or maybe they have somebody else if you say no. So there was this like holding these two parts of me. So that's my example. So do you have a similar example where you were just feeling torn in two different directions?
For coming today, yes, because I really wanted to be there, but the drive is long and I have a lot of deadlines and I'm tired. And so I really wanted to come because I've been trying to get there. And then my daughter said, "Why are you going, Mom? You just need to relax and stay home and get your stuff done and have peace of mind." So when I wrote Jane at 1 o'clock, I felt terrible because I had committed to coming. And then I really it was really going to take a lot out of me to be there.
Okay, so finish up.
Nice.
Does that work? I mean,
That's
is that
exactly what was needed? Perfect.
And then it was really nice because usually I either go and then kind of like way overextend, or I don't know if I make an excuse or whatever, but I was just honest and wrote, and Jane said, would you like to Skype in?
There you go. Well, thank
Yeah.
you so much for sharing. All right, back to the group.
So speaking of cake, I want to give you a little bit of picture, a quick picture about psychology. In the field of psychology, if you think of the human being as a 4-layer cake, most of psychology looks at one of the layers at a time. So the bottom layer would be physical, like body psychotherapy, or behavioral psychology, rewards, all that. The next level up would be emotional. So there's a whole bunch of modalities, humanism and stuff like that, that have to do with emotions. The next level up is intellectual or thought, so cognitive therapy. Just because English words, you have a thought, English words go through your mind, doesn't mean it's true. Is it really true? So that kind of approach. And then the top layer being spiritual. There's a whole field called transpersonal psychology. That's what I'm trained. And but what we're looking at here with the little mask thing is some modalities, and they're called multiplicity modalities, slice the cake. So it's looking at one part of you at a time. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I'm
So like
happy.
one part of you that includes each layer.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So we're going to be looking at psychology through that multiplicity, this mask lens. Can you go to this slide with like the baby, the 1-year-old trying to walk?
Mm-hmm.
So when our babies were 1, their bodies developed to a certain point that they were ready to stand up and walk. And at the same time, they had a biological urge to stand up and walk. And you can see, like, if you didn't want them to walk, like let's say every time they tried to stand up, you held them or picked them up or something like that, they would probably fight you because you're thwarting them in their biological urge. At the same time, so let's say you saw somebody else and they were doing that to their baby. You might say to them, like, well, why don't you let them walk? And maybe that parent is going like, you should see my kid is so bad. She's such a bad kid. She doesn't do what I say to do. But at the same time, you wouldn't want to just let go of your child. You wouldn't advise that parent, just don't have anything to do with your kid. Let them walk, and then they fall down the stairs. So there's this middle of the road guiding sort of thing that we're looking for to allow them to grow, but to be attentive to that and keeping them safe. So now we have teenagers, and it's very similar situation that their bodies have developed, in particular their brain, the prefrontal cortex, which is the part of their brain that's the most involved, is like the spiritual part of the brain. And that part of the brain has the abilities that are called the executive functions. A strong part of which is making decisions. So their brain proliferates at age 11 or 12. Now they're ready to start using their decision-making abilities. And if we stop them by telling them what to do all the time, and they don't get to exercise their decision-making abilities, they will fight us. And so somebody might come along and say, stop making all the decisions for your kids, but that doesn't mean to ignore them and, let them get hurt. Okay, so we're trying to do that same sort of thing. And if you do that, some people think I'm crazy, but it's my contention that you don't have to fight with your kids. It's not a natural part of growing up or teenage land or something. They're butting up against you but not fighting, especially around ideas. Why are you voting for that person? You should be voting for them. How come you don't have compost? Whatever it is they yell at you about. Okay. So this skill about making decisions I'm going to give you, can you put on the 4 skills thing that was back what you were on before? I want to give you a picture. This is from Rudolf Steiner, which to me was the clearest description of this. And he talks about something called inner freedom. There's outer freedom, which is nobody's making you do something. You know, we have freedom in this country, or your parents are allowing you to make decisions or whatever. But there's another thing called inner freedom. And that looks like this. Being able to hear what your passions are, being creative, giving yourself pleasure, allowing you to be happy in the world, right? Or hearing when you're sad, and that matters. But not being compelled by what you feel like or what you want to do in the world. You don't have to do what you feel like doing. So those are like 2 skills. The ability to do this and the ability to not do this. The 3rd skill is to notice other people or your own future. Oh, grandma's sleeping. You know, be considerate, right? And then the 4th skill is to not have to do what other people are saying to do. So I call that the Rosa Parks skill. So 4 skills. And in the other workshop that is the prerequisite to this one, I ask parents to write down all their goals for their kids. I go around to all the easels, and so many, many things are written. I just look for the word obedience, and that's there. I'm sorry, you can have your money back. So I can't help you that. But everything else, fine. And then I ask people to look at these 4 skills and to write the numbers of the skills on their goals. In other words, which skill do you need to have in order to meet your goals for your child? And I just wait till the point where they all go, oh, you need all 4 skills. Or you're like, yeah, not gonna happen. Okay, so that's the 4 skills. Are there any questions about that so far?
I agree with you on the obedience, because we want free thinkers or independent, but I appreciate like number 3 in some ways is the ability to be able to be obedient when and if needed, or when you choose to do that. And that's, I don't know.
Yes.
Make that distinction, and I think that's a really important skill that people don't talk a lot about, is that you have that choice, or all of these. I like these all.
Yeah, I guess I should be more clear. The goal for your child is when they're 18 and they're going out into life. So as a young child, you do want that obedience. So it's moving from authority to guidance, this workshop. And authority is, in my mind, what is healthy for young children. They need to give over through attachment. And when they get the ability to give over to you, then when they're older, they get the ability to give over to this part of them, right? They get skill number 2, the ability to do something other than what they want to do. So yeah, I think we're on the same page. Cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
Jen, I think when you say that the more we're all highly skilled at all 4 of those and can move fluidly as an adult, and the adolescent witness that's how they're actually going to learn it, rather than in some kind of over teach and say, you have to learn empathy today. You have to learn.
Yeah, modeling is great, but what's really important too is that they get to practice with our support rather than us making the decisions for them. Okay, so the next concept from the other workshop is don't put this on tape. The boot camp mayhem continuum. What do you think that means?
Either really strict or completely.
Yeah. So on that continuum of parenting, if you're all the way over on the, say, mayhem side, which of those 4 skills do you think you develop or not develop? Maybe put the skill one back so that doesn't
If you're not
as the child.
developing,
The ability to honor this child gets that.
So on the mayhem end, which of these do you?
1 and 4.
they're not.
Does the
getting 2
child
or
not
3.
learn?
1 and 4.
Yeah. And then the boot camp end, it's reverse. Okay, so on the extremes of parenting, you're not going to be able to reach your goals for your children. Okay. That's very quick. But notes. Okay, the next concept, what does this mean to you?
Meeting their needs developmentally. Really
Meeting them where they're at.
Yeah, that there's, and so I use this to represent, I use the bikes to represent the level of choice that's appropriate for the different ages of children. So a tricycle, they can lean all the way to the left and all the way to the right, but the bike's just like, but I don't want to go to bed. Oh, it's really hard to not go to bed when you're, when you want to stay and play your blocks, but as you're carrying your body to bed. The tricycle with training wheels is representing choice within limits. So that would be, pick something out to wear as long as it's warm enough. Like, no, you can't wear your bathing suit today. Maybe underneath your overalls, and if you could wear. And then the last one, which is what we're working on now, is the 10 speed. And at some point, they have to learn to balance the bike themselves, right? It's not you keeping them, when you're parenting, you're like trying to keep in the middle between the needs of, the mayhem and the boot camp, kind of in the middle. But when they're riding this, they're trying to be in the middle. So at some point, you really have to let go of the bike. Okay, any questions around that? This is the Clip Note version, really fast. So now you're caught up, I think. Yes, no. So what does it look like to make this move from young child, parent-child relationship to the teenage healthy way of doing it? What does it look like to make that move? Can you make it go? More. You're going backwards.
Yeah.
Yeah, go forward.
Which
the
one?
where back a little bit. Back more. That one. Yeah. So here, this is representing you. Here's the big bad world. Or actually, I'll have this be. This is the big bad world, and this is my little new baby or young child. And here's me parenting. So I'm parenting by saying, I'm gonna control basically your world. I'm gonna make your world this small and make it safe for you. And so a lot of stuff, no, you can't go to an X-rated movie, you can't, and that's really healthy. And they feel safe in there, and they obey you, right? Through attachment. And then, well, some people. And then what's healthy is when they're becoming a teenager, that you get up, walk around, and stand next to them and go, whoa, that is an interesting problem that you have. What are the options? So they're getting support from you to face the world themselves. So that's the overall picture of what we're trying to do. And if you do have a 13-year-old, a young teen, and it's going to feel different, you are making a bit of a change, you might actually consciously say that out loud to them. Hey, you're 13, whatever, I'm realizing I want to do this with you and give you this opportunity to start making your own decisions in life. And I want to kind of hand you the reins of your life, but I'm not going to hand you the reins and jump off the cart. I'm going to hand you the reins, and I'll have my hands outside yours. And, make sure if you drive into a tree, I'll keep you safe. But maybe give you little hunks of your life that you're making the decisions around. Like, you get home from school, maybe you decide what you do. Like, talk about it on the way home from school or something like that. So letting them know that you're going to do this. Most cultures have some kind of commemoration of adolescence, like a bar mitzvah or some rite of passage kind of thing, affirmation or something. And, so I think that most biologically through, all of the culture of the world, we recognize that there's this switch. Like you're a man now, you get to make your own decision. And this is the need for autonomy. That's the need that becomes salient in adolescence, just like the need for walking becomes salient when they're 1 year old. Okay, so I have these cards. Anybody need to use the bathroom or something? Can we keep going? Okay, cool. My little cards. And I was hoping that you guys can kind of figure out what all of this means. These are like the skills for teen parents.
Those are little CDs.
Yeah.
That's cute.
Anybody want to just take one of them and say what it means to you? Kelly can see them too.
Mm-hmm.
She has some good children. What are you asking us? Asking what these things mean to you. Like how you would describe.
Here they are
this.
on the screen if somebody wants to subscribe.
Oh, there we go. That's helpful.
So I'll put in your 2 cents, mostly because I think it might be something that I struggle with. I think in an effort to try and relate to my kids or people in general, those of you who know me may already, or to convey a certain level of understanding or empathy in their situation, I try to explain something that made me feel the way I think they are feeling. And so I'm putting in my 2 cents when it's not really about.
So you're guessing how they feel?
Yeah, and trying to make that connection and trying to get through an effort to get conversation and understanding going, I'll kind of relate something similar that made me feel a certain way that I think they might be feeling. When I don't necessarily think that's the most helpful. Like I think that when it's a situation about them, I should let it be about them and be a little more reflective about current events.
Okay, that makes sense. In terms of them making a decision, like what I was saying, instead of like the bicycle, that they're making their decisions themselves. I made the card of putting in your 2 cents because here's a way of it. When the child is young and you're saying, no, you may not go to the X-rated movie, then it's like you're being God. Like, this is the right thing, so just obey me, right? When you go stand next to them and now you're supporting them to figure out their own decisions themselves, your 2 cents matters because you've lived longer. You might know about that, you want that to. It's almost like any friend, right? You want that to keep going. Like I'm thinking of my son, first year of college. Just like, Mom, hey Dave. Hypothetically speaking, if one got one's car towed, what would one do? It's like, I want to go, hypothetically speaking, Dave. I want my children, young adults to ask me for my 2 cents because I want to support them like I would any friend. So it just like I need to feel like I'm off, and that might look, and rather than like, so what would that sound like? Putting in 2 cents in a way, not a child way, but an adult to adult way. What would it sound like? What words would you say? Put in your opinion about their decision.
I think maybe in that situation I might.
Yeah, it's got the I think or the might, that kind of thing. That this is right. You should. Yeah. So that skill is put in your 2 cents. They want to know. What else?
I find around putting in my 2 cents that I'm kind of trying to navigate between when my daughter is telling me about something. Sometimes she doesn't want my 2 cents. Sometimes she just needs to tell me the thing without my opinion or she just needs to get on your ancient perspective. Guy's perspective. Just getting stupider every day. Yeah, so and she, again, she's very good at telling me, Mom, I just need to get it off my chest. This isn't actually helping me right now.
So
I'm
for
getting
you,
better
you're like,
hearing that, but
want to ask permission to put your
I think
2
that
cents
I'm
in?
starting to, so, before I go any further, do you need me to just listen right now, or do you want me to help you figure this out? It's tricky because I always.
I think I need
Skip
to,
my-
I think I need to find that pause, that gap, that moment where I say, well, what do you think you should do?
Right, because
Or what do you want to do about this? Yeah, I just jump right in with, oh, I know how to fix that. for you.
Right.
But if thinking about a friend, putting in 2 cents to a friend versus a teen, oftentimes in friendships, we're not as invested in the results. And so we can more easily be like, oh, this is just my thoughts on it.
Yeah.
Whereas as a parent, you're like, well, these are my thoughts and
And this is what you should do.
So it's like letting go a little bit
encourage
of that.
Yeah.
Right.
That investment.
Yeah, and
Right.
giving the reins of their life to them, that could be a little bit scary. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that's like being less attached to what they do with your 2 cents.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Would you say it's also a challenge for adults? I'm thinking of a woman I hired as my executive. Yeah. And I didn't realize how much she was totally pissing off every single teenager. Because I really appreciate she had an incredible ability for problem solving. If we dialogue with something, she had just wonderful, very insightful ideas. But I realized she did that all the time with everything. And the teams did their idea outside the problem. And I just think the more we realize that we do have a lot more experience, so we probably have a lot more.
Yeah.
Would you like to hear them, or you can come back to me later and we can talk some more about it. But.
Yeah. So how? Maybe let's say that's you. Your daughter. I'll be your daughter. Mom, this happened and he said that, she said that.
I would immediately get angry about setting my father. And then, right, I mean, in a perfect world, I would be the nurturing mother that would be asking her, hey, talk about this and what happened, and
That's not. That you must have felt
really
bad.
awful.
I'm thinking of this for some reason. This young man might be watching this a little bit. Hey, Luca. When he was young teen, when I remember this one moment of seeing him walk towards me, and I realized I don't know who's in the body right now. Is it little Luca who's going to be sad and want to hug and be like, or is it like Luca the philosopher who came to like spar with me about ideas? So it's like with teenagers, they're funny because sometimes they're a kid. Sometimes they're a kid. So you have to figure out, wait, am I being the nurturing mother right now, or I'm being the philosopher?
And it all changes within 2 minutes.
Oh, yeah,
In the same conversation. Yeah.
Absolutely. Does someone want to pull another card?
I'm struggling a little bit with the number 1.
Taking back the reins.
Like, if I that's the hardest of people. Mostly because the people in authority out there, outside of our family, feel the pressure that we should take all the reins back, and we should have a life until. And for me, been prevalent. On the other hand, a lot of
Riding the bike. You're making
great.
good decisions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we made a really horrible decision. And we're back to, locking up the kitchen knife. Lost my girlfriend, or other people, and like, just stay away from anything that's gonna make you explode.
Yeah.
On the other hand, well, I don't know how to get better about handling these things.
Yeah, and that's
You can't keep them in a box.
yes, you can.
And I really don't want to.
Yeah.
It feels bad.
So I'm going to acknowledge that many professionals, you probably noticed that too, probably wouldn't agree so much. They don't be your child's friend, be their parent. They don't need a friend. Like tell them what to do. You should have control of your kids. You should punish them. They're grounded. Like in my field, that is prevalent. I think that way of thinking. I just don't agree with it. It's not my experience. My son, whose last job was the director of the counseling center at Creighton University. And he was in the counseling centers at colleges for years. And my husband too. And just hearing the stories of these 18-year-olds who, it's like the 18-year-olds didn't learn to make their own decisions. As adolescents, it would be like, I want to steal hubcaps. And then their mom would say, no, you can't. Yeah, sorry. You can't steal the hub. You can't. I want to do this. No. Yes. No. And so now they go off to college. But that's
Freedom.
not there anymore. So they're just doing whatever they feel like doing. And that's basically a disaster. That's why the caps is always so full. Yeah. So I really honor your desire to help.
I mean, I've never been too much of an authoritarian. I know that feels like I have been, but I'm not really. He's been offended since he came out of the womb. If there's anyone that knows anything more.
So this one about taking back the reins is if you're wanting to give them their own decision making, and only exert your control when there's going to be irreparable damage. Which maybe we'll do the let him or her decide one, what that looks like.
I have a question, kind of touching on what you're talking about. Well, just taking back the reins. Justine and I were talking on the way up here, and we were discussing how for us, I mean, our kiddos are in different places, but when it comes time, like when it just comes time that you need to discipline, you just do. I'm bad, and we were saying, like, I feel for my kid, the only thing I have is her phone. To take away the phone, because that is the end of the world. But taking away the phone is also taking away, I have an only child, and she's already, this year has been very hard. She already feels isolated from a lot. But so I feel like taking away the phone while I've got my thing to hang over her, and she's going to, change her behavior because she wants her phone back so badly. But I'm also taking away her only lifeline to what friends she has, to the world outside of. So it doesn't feel like it's the right thing to do, but sometimes I feel like it's the only thing to do.
Yeah, can you hold that for a little bit?
Yeah.
Okay, because make sure we don't forget it. Okay. Because then that way we can put all of these things together.
Yeah.
So what does it look like to let him or her decide? Like, what if your teen says, I'm going to stay up all night? What would you do?
Well, I can tell you what I've done, and it didn't necessarily work out well. I said, okay, you'll be tired in the morning, and you'll learn to deal with that. He's, now in his early 20s, and he's a night owl, and he will use substances to keep himself awake when he needs to be awake, and get himself to sleep when he needs to get to sleep. And so being tired at school or being overtired at work wasn't a natural consequence that worked as an effective deterrent.
Okay, I hear what you're saying. One thing is see the one that says point out reality?
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes it's sort of unbelievable sometimes that they don't even see
Their
that
consequence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so sitting down with them and going like, well, I see you're really tired now. I wonder why that is. Do you care? That kind of thing. Like actually the process of making decisions with them. Like one young man who I love very, very much said last week, he said, I want my mom to make decisions with me, not for me. It's like, can I steal that? Because that's kind of that's it in one sentence. So it would be retroactive as well.
Yeah, and we'd have those conversations, and there was no acknowledgement that things were difficult. Oh, no, it's fine. No big deal at all.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So let's hold over here when the idea of irreparable harm.
Mm-hmm.
One night of staying up might not be what your choice would be, or hanging with that friend, or eating something bad for you, or whatever, some little kind of thing that's not irreparable harm. And those on giving the reins of the life back over to your teen, you have to be really careful that you're actually letting them make their own decision, except for when you need to take the reins back, because there's going to be irreparable harm. That's the way I think of it. And so for yours, it might be that your child is making that decision ongoing for years, then it might be more towards irreparable harm. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and so, just kind of figuring out where on that slippery slope you are.
Yes, it's a gray area, absolutely. Yeah. Anybody else want to pull a card? How about watch your words, or adult-to-adult relationship? Someone speak to that? Do a child-parent relationship. I'll be the child. Let's do this one. I'm gonna stay up all night because there's a party going on. And tomorrow is something. SATs. So go do it as the not adult to adult, but that you're the parent and I'm the child.
Okay. And my child the same.
Like? Yeah.
SATs tomorrow.
How about this one? Oh, sweetie pie, that sounds like so much fun, but you're out of your mind.
Right, there you go. You've got to be kidding me.
Yeah. Okay. So that's the parent to child reaction. Okay. Interaction. So how about adult to adult? What does that look like?
Adult to adult. One adult telling the other adult they're going to.
Yeah, like the one you were saying, it's another person besides my kid, and I'm not so invested. I would talk differently to them.
Right.
So what would that be? Almost like sometimes I tell parents, don't say it to your teenager unless you would also say it to a renter in your house.
Mm-hmm.
Your dishes are. You are not allowed to have your dishes. Put them away, or else. But you would never say that to a renter, right? So how would you talk to me as if I were a renter in the house who's going to stay up all night and work so invested.
Well, I suppose it
And
would.
so here, I'll give a little picture. This is your inner child in transactional analysis terms. This is
Okay.
your inner adult.
Okay.
This is your inner parent.
Parent.
Does that make sense?
So
Or
this is my
sometimes
inner parent.
Freud, ego,
So I would approach
superego.
adult to adult with my inner child. Like, well,
Ah,
I mean, maybe
How
stay
would
up
that
all
look?
night? Yeah. You say you got that much energy. Go for it.
okay. Then what? That's it? Then she'd probably stay all night.
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah.
What if you want to put your 2 cents in?
I wanted to put my 2 cents in. Kind of confused by this exercise. Well, my 2 cents would be, you know, if I don't think that's a good idea.
Okay.
Yeah,
Because
because you have SATs in the morning. You need to get a good night's sleep and rest your brain and be fresh and
yeah. And what do you think about that, daughter? Oh, yeah, I
Right.
didn't think of that. Sometimes it's pretty amazing that they don't
right.
think about it. Oh yeah, I never thought of the consequence of that action. Okay, so that's the feeling sense of talking from your adult to my adult, rather than from your parent to my child. You may
Okay,
not,
gotcha.
shouldn't do that. It's the wrong thing to do. What did you say? What's the matter with you? Are you out of your
Are
mind?
you out of your mind?
Yeah. Okay, whereas the adult to adult is more like, what might be the consequences of that action? Okay. So that's adult to adult relationship. And also words. So like what words do you think would come from a parent-child relationship so that you know you're in it? What does it sound like?
You're out of your mind.
You're out of your mind. So like an
That's
insult.
stupid. You can't believe it.
No. Right, you can't.
No, you can't. Yeah. What else? Why would you do that? Oh yeah, like sort of almost the word that sarcasm.
Haven't I taught you anything?
Why would you do that?
Right, right.
Yeah.
What were you thinking?
What were you thinking?
Mhm.
Yeah. But you can say the same words that with a different tone. Like Annie. So
Yeah.
Annie was saying, yeah, she works with faculty. She's teaching them to move from a punitive mindset. That's kind of what we're talking about here, to a healing mindset. So she's teaching them that curiosity. So the kid comes in the room, drops the F-bomb, da-da-da-da. And so she's teaching them like to have curiosity, like, why are you doing that? And but then the teachers will hear it and use those exact same, why are you doing that?
Yeah.
And they're coming still from this attitude, but she's wanting them to have the curiosity. Oh, what need are you trying to meet? And how can we help you find another strategy to meet that need that doesn't do so much harm? So the same words can sometimes have a different tone. Yeah, but that the sense that you were saying, like, why did you do that? Any other words? There's a big one I'm waiting for.
Should.
If that word's coming out of your mouth, you're pretty much
should have known.
You
should be.
shit on their heads. Right?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's the watch your word one. How about how about putting out how the other person feels? Any examples of that?
Sometimes with my daughter, and either her friends or her teachers will say, kind of blanket statement, especially teachers, oh, that teacher's an asshole, or oh, and not every time, but sometimes I'll, if it feels like maybe there's an opening, I'll try to say something like, do you really think you're an asshole? Or what, why, what did they do? Or what did they say? Or what, show me what you think is asshole.
Yeah. Observation you had that you're calling an asshole. Like you're pulling her down this road of understanding the other person instead of just dismissing them. Yeah. So that's like a really huge social emotional skill, is to understand other people. Yeah, and in the same, I mean, it might even go that they've done a behavior. You know, like when I saw you inviting Sally to your birthday party right in front of Dana, and Dana's not invited. I wonder how Dana felt, because that empathy isn't automatic. It needs to be pointed at, talked to. So that's that. It's not. There's no should. You shouldn't have done that, or you're bad, or just like, oh, are you noticing? Yeah, and yours is, you know, you're bringing her from judgment to understanding. That's what releases judgment. That's wisdom. How about the one?
I just will add to that that where I'm struggling with that is with my oldest and her two younger brothers, and there's all, you know, just a lot, like, and that's a little bit of a trickier line, because trying to be like, well, I wonder, you know, she's usually just like nothing to do with them, and you know, very, and trying to point out how they feel, but then it sometimes feels a little bit like, well, am I taking their side on it? So that's just
Yeah,
and yeah, that's it.
it's because you can point out how they feel without making your daughter do something different, and also point out how she feels too, which is important as well. Yeah, I can see that. How about being a person? Sort of like pointing how the other person feels.
Is that like express your
Yes. Yeah. Sometimes when I say to give the reins of the child's life back to them, then parents sometimes interpret that as giving the reins of their life to the teens. That you matter too. You know, when you was out really frustrated, orders are being really requesting that you put your dishes away. That's the be a person one.
Would it also be kind of equated to being a friend to them, like being more of a buddy?
Being a person?
Yeah.
Yeah, in terms of like if you're the parent of, or teacher of a young child, your feelings aren't part of you're just like, you're God. And if you're upset about something, it goes back there. And that's healthy for them. It's hard enough with life for them. They can't be responsible for your needs. You don't want them to feel responsible for your needs. But when you're getting more adult to adult, it's time for you to bring out that I didn't like, that's uncomfortable. I'm feeling da, 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 da. And that's bringing more to the adult to adult relationship. And it's a gift to them, because they're trying to, before they go out in the world, they need to navigate this very subtle skill of balancing self and other. Rudolf Steiner said that he said, the universe appears to us in the polarity of self and other. And it's the entire spiritual striving of mankind to resolve that polarity between self and other. That's a big thing. So when you are saying, ouch, now your child's getting that behavior is uncomfortable for you. Because the thing is, if you let them walk all over you and be a doormat, then they go out, like I said, in college, and they're not even realizing that they're hurting people, and that it really doesn't fare well for them.
Jane, if I could add, all the years of talking to hundreds and hundreds of parents about this theater, I find almost the one common thing is that, and I think there's a fine line here, and I get it because I lived with a mother who made me feel as a kid that I was responsible for her. As a teenager, that I was responsible for her feelings. And there's a fine line, and I found that again, the parents think, well, you really hurt me, like you shouldn't do that. It's like, supposed to, hey, you know, that hurt a little bit. Just want to let you know, and still being the adult, like I'm responsible for my feelings. You don't have to fix it. I'm not even going to have to go into a whole long, you know, nonviolent communication conflict resolution with you all the time. Just letting you know, I'm frustrated that, you know, you said you're going to help me make dinner, and 15 minutes late. It's just frustrating. and then just go on to the next thing.
Yeah, or even a
But it's a
rude
hard,
comment.
it's a hard skill for any adult, period.
Yeah,
To
much
not,
less with the team.
to be responsible, let alone with the team, is probably
Yeah.
going to be a little bit tired.
Yeah. Okay. And you have you're so invested, like you said, it's harder to make that you're there and your thing. How about not being a doormat?
For me, that ties into what you were just saying a little bit with keeping that emotional distance. Like, you may have a very strong emotional response to them expecting you to be a doormat, and that may come to the surface with your declaration that you are indeed not a doormat, but kind of keeping that in check and not then turning it over to you're also responsible for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so you don't want to like
boundary
all over them. Yeah. But then you don't also want to be a doormat.
Yes.
So then it becomes so like how do we do that boundary? Another way of thinking of it is if let's say that Sienna I would have to make something up, that she keeps coming in here with her muddy boots. And so first, to keep connection with her, I would say, oh, Sienna, when you come in here with your muddy boots, it's really difficult for me because I have to clean it up or have mess or whatever. Would you be willing to leave your boots on the boot rack? And then Sienna might say, F you. In which case, with her, I wouldn't yell over you stupid mother, you know, like I would do that. But I also wouldn't be a doormat. I'd say, well, if you're not willing to take your shoes off at the door, then I'm not willing to invite you into my office. So it goes from request to demand. And in NVC, I know demand is talked about as being disconnecting, so not suggested, I guess. But to me, if I make a request for my needs to be met and the other person doesn't care about my needs, that means we already are disconnected. Mm-hmm. And so, to me, by meeting my own need, by making a demand, is healthy in relationship. And a demand is not an order. An order is like spit, dog. Demand is an if then. If you, this is a gift that the way I like to describe it, right there. One dad, I called him up, was giving him a gift. The gift was a demand. I said to him, if you, in your freedom, because you're free, and I recognize that, if you in your freedom decide to throw anything at your daughters or touch them in anger in any way, they have my cell phone in their cell phone, and they'll tell me, and then I, in my freedom, am going to call the Division of Youth and Services. That was my demand to him. He was like, no, a threat is when I would be lying about what I'm doing, but I actually am going to do it. So it's a demand. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So demand is healthy when you've made a request and the other person is unwilling in their freedom to help you meet your needs or stop violating you, something like that. So that's the don't be a doormat, which then goes to it's sort of a consequence, really, right? If you do that, I'm going to do this. So in making a consequence, this is the previous workshop, that was a prerequisite, in making a consequence, which is mostly for young children, right? Because you don't want to get in that mode with our team. You really want to get out of that as soon as possible and get back to the, adult to adult, working together to solve the problem and all that. But in making consequence, you want to make it something that you do because you think of it. You want to make it as small as possible. You want to make it relevant as possible to what's going on. So I guess that's the main thing about that. Yeah. Okay. So you don't want to clean your room. I'm not. If I have this, or you don't want to do your dishes. If I'm spending the time to do the dishes, then that's the time I'm not going to drive you to your friend's house. So. Yep. Looking at reality. Taking back the reins. Yeah, I think I want to say something about taking back the reins thing. So let's say two different relationships. One relationship is I'm the punitive, I'm always shooting you, you're allowed to do that. You're not allowed to do that. I told you, young man, you're grounded. Okay, so within this relationship, the child is holding this. I want to do this, and the parent is saying, no, you may not, right? Then when there's something that's dangerous, it's just going to seem like another thing that you're telling them that they can't do. Whereas if you have, let's sit down and, like you're making your own decisions, I respect them, I help you with them, we talk about it, and then it's something like they want to do something really dangerous. You're coming to them with, whoa, that's like not okay, that's really dangerous. They'll be able to hear it because it will be so different than how you usually are. The other thing, I might as well throw these other little tidbits in here. When you get into the mode that they're making their own decisions, then it's like they have the inner motivation. They own it. That's this autonomy. This is the need for autonomy that arises in adolescence that they're trying to make their own decisions. Because they know when they're 18 and they're out of there, they better know how to make their own decisions because they're going to be out in the world by themselves. So they want to practice. You have like 5 years of practice. When the decision is made by them, then you don't have to enforce anymore. It's a really different feeling. I'm not, are they being bad? That is gone. You don't need to enforce. But you would want to support. So that would look like, oh, this, you missed your appointment. Well, let's see how we can do some time management skills or something. But how can I help you to learn how to be better in the world so you can work better?
Did you find it different for each of your kids?
Yeah, it says you have like A, like, yeah. And really schooling me. So yeah, it's always different with all kids. And, but then like Dave was such an easy child, like Winnie the Pooh, right? So just happy. And then, but then my little one who's like Tigger, and she was so difficult. And it's like, oh, discipline? I never had to do that with David doing it. But now she's like kicking 8 hours worth of files that I just filed. And she's like, arr. So yeah, but now she's like all her wild horses are going straight in.
Yeah. So I know another child that
yeah. It's like, oh, you got this sweet little baby, you just wait till it's time. Let's go to school. Put your shoes on already. It's staring in your face. That happy little kid, you're gonna get him to move. How do you get in the bathtub? Why would I want to get in the bathtub? In the Poohs, right? It's like, I'm happy right now. Then he's in the bathtub. I'm glad. Why would I want to get in the bathtub? I'm happy right now. Don't move. Don't change things. Keep it the same. Yeah, I'm talking about temperaments right now. But yes, those kids are also different. All right, so should we play our game?
Can we take the time out for like 5 minutes?
Yeah. You want to do bathrooms and drinks and things? If there's only one bathroom here, but if you go here.
So the game is somebody goes first and pick a scenario. And then
Hey, Kelly, we're coming back.
Okay, thank you.
Say, what I'm thinking is I would use this one and this one, this one. And this
We like your house, Kelly.
You say, well, another option is you go ahead and put in your 2 cents for each other, and then the person goes, okay, hearing what all of your input is, my decision is I would do this.
If you were 17.
So do you know?
You were the.
Oh, I'm actually
parent. You're the parent.
I'm the parent.
Mhm.
Okay.
That makes sense.
So we're all parents in the scenario.
Yeah, you're helping each other.
Did
And
you
then,
guys
then the next
follow what
person
she was?
I didn't catch everything though, so
Okay.
we were too busy admiring Kelly's house.
So when we're done.
So we pick one, or
Jen, you want us to
There.
take that group?
Yeah.
And I
There,
can
that
wait.
way.
They're right there with you.
Could that be helpful?
Right
sit
there.
back and forth.
we all
Okay.
just have a meeting.
Cool.
So do you know what to do?
No,
So you have the cards. So the cards need to get put out.
Okay.
Kelly, you're in?
I'm in.
And we'll just read.
I'll go
Kelly's
Flynn.
difference.
17-year-old
That's
Lamar is spending
So
2
we
to
each
3
pick
hours
one?
per day playing video.
So the way it works, if it's my turn, I do this. I say, oh,
Being his
my
parent,
15-year-old,
I'm just concerned he's not getting enough social
and then I say,
connection.
in this
don't really mind
situation,
him these 3
I
hours of
think
video
what I would
games,
do
you know, stuff like that.
is
So I don't
point
really
out
feel like I can,
reality,
set
and
a
then I
demand and
would,
tell
you
him
know,
that,
whatever,
hey,
point out,
you know,
whatever it is, but I'd be really careful with my words. And then it goes around the circle, and you'd say, well, you know, you might also want to not be a doormat. And then after you put in your 2 cents, then I would be, okay, after hearing all the input that you guys helped me with my parenting, what I would do is, okay, and then now it's your turn to do a scenario. Okay. Go. Okay, go ahead, Madeline.
17-year-old Kevin's room looks like a tornado hit it. You hate to look at it. Sometimes he leaves pizza rinds in there for days. Okay.
Did you hear that one, Kelly?
No.
The room looks really messy, and sometimes he leaves pizza there for days.
Okay.
That's the situation.
I think it is,
Thank you.
You guys have a issue.
I feel like I want to see back to brains. Okay, but maybe not over pizza. Because then, I guess I'll try to have an adult to adult relationship. And point out reality around hygiene and consequences of such a big mess.
Like, how would it sound? Like
Okay. Oh, so
practice.
I get to practice.
see.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Kevin, so I noticed that when I come into your room, it's just gotten messier and
I would
messier.
probably go out and point out.
It's actually kind of hard for me to see how messy it is.
I know what smoke smells
this
like.
stuff like
Being a person.
yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
I'm just concerned that you're starting.
and I just wanted to kind of point out that leaving food in your room for a long time, you know, could really cause some problems with mice or mold or odors. And so I just felt like I needed to share with you that. And obviously, I'd really like you to do something about it.
You're so
Okay.
Let me go around the circle. So is there anything else you would put in?
I kind of lean towards letting him decide, but I think part of it would be pointing out the reality and just basically saying like, hey, you can totally just leave your room messy if you really want to, but if it starts smelling or if there is like mice that are going to get developed or anything like that, the undesirable results, like you're going to be responsible for the consequences. So just putting it out there, maybe checking with him like, hey, what do you think could be the consequences? And just making sure that he's aware like kind of different things, but ultimately just go for it. Kelly, you wanna share? Here's all the cards.
I can't really see them, but I mean it's a little blurry. I can see the I'm not a doormat, take back the reins, let her decide. Watch your words. Yeah. So I mean, be a person, I don't know. I don't know how to relate this. I mean, I have this issue with my son with food in his room, and I've done so many different things, and he doesn't change. So,
Just out of curiosity, do you?
sorry?
Do you clean it?
No. So what happens is he eats a lot in his room, and so I've talked about the whole mice, ants, everything. Not to mention the stuff that grows in his bowls and things.
Mm-hmm.
And so every now and then I'll go through and muck it out every week or two, and it's disgusting. Like, he still doesn't do it. I mean, so I've left it. I've asked him not to. I've told him he couldn't eat there, although that kind of has been a threat because then I still let him eat there. I feel like I've used every possible way of explaining, of getting upset, of talking through it, you know, the consequences, sharing the consequences. I actually don't know how to get him to stop leaving his dishes in his room.
So are you taking the consequences of your child's decision?
Well, that would be
Well, that's
a
what's powerful
consequence that
woman's
would
enough time.
deter
You come back and
Miles
this is say,
if
okay,
it were,
what do you
I
think?
mean, this also sometimes happens in my house, but he does not want me to clean his room.
Mhm.
And so sometimes the ultimatum
It empowers
is,
them to decide, okay, how would
and I just have to watch my words is where I run into trouble. Because the ultimatum is, I'm noticing that there are things that are unsanitary in your room, and that's not cool because I don't want the whole house to become infested. So here's your timeline to deal with it. And if you don't, then I will. If you can't be the adult and take care of it, then I'll be the adult and take care of it. And then he doesn't.
Oh, so that's the.
And then he does. You're lucky though. Then he does it.
Yeah.
Mine doesn't want me to do his room, but doesn't do it either. So he just doesn't do it.
That's where I am.
I mean, he doesn't even care how disgusting it is. It's everywhere. It's like knives and peanut butter jars that are stuck in. It's so disgusting.
Yeah. And so so he never does it. He never has to.
Once in a while, like this morning, he brought down his breakfast dishes, but he'll go like a week without bringing anything down, including maybe the pot he made the ramen in.
Right.
You know, like he'll bring it up and eat out of it, and that's there, and that ramen turns into this disgusting gel thing. Like, I mean, it's so bad.
Yeah.
I have a question.
I know that one too.
Does he, have you been able to be curious about why he's doing it?
Oh, you mean ask him why he's doing it?
Why is he not bringing them down, or what made it?
That's a good question. I've never asked him why.
All right, so let's keep going around this circle now. Because it's actually your.
Right. Well, I too deal with the same situation with my daughter. And by everything that you've both said, I agree with. And sometimes it still doesn't work. And yeah, I mean, I don't take dishes out of her room. I just don't. I refuse to. I'm not going to do that. They're her dishes. She's going to bring them down. I recognize that means that, you know, they're going to be up there for a while. But when she brings them down, they're her responsibility to clean. She's not allowed to leave them in the sink. She has to deal with them immediately.
Yeah.
And I'm just trusting that after a while of having to immediately clean dishes that have been sitting for weeks sometimes with food stuck to the side, that eventually she'll realize how miserable that is because we don't have a dishwasher.
How much easier
And how
it
much
is
easier
to do
it is.
Yeah, right
And
away.
I have noticed that she started talking to her father about leaving his dishes without washing them out of the way. So, but she's, you know, it hasn't shifted anything as far as the dishes and.
So which one of the strategies would you say
I
you're
think
using?
so very similar to the adult to adult, like let's talk about what's going on here, pointing out reality that there are mice, there are ants, there are all kinds of critters that love sticky, nasty food, and yeah, they're watching my words too, because it's important for me to do that, because I tend to, I can be exhausted and really angry and feel like we've talked about this 5 million times. and I don't want to deal with this right now. So really the watching the words is something that I feel like is my big personal challenge. A lot of shit, but that's a big one.
Okay.
I don't feel like I could do that. I mean, well, I guess I do, because I let
Yeah.
her do it on her own time, but
Right, yeah, you kind of do. And I think I would also, we're kind of letting them decide, but to a point. So like I would say, okay, there's dust 3 inches thick under your bed, all of your laundry is in disarray. And that I'm gonna let you decide, but when it comes to the food, here's your timeline, and if you don't do it, I'm gonna do it. And sometimes, yeah, and sometimes I don't say I'm gonna go in and do it. I say, just so you know, you have school today, but before you leave the house for anything that isn't school related, all of the dishes need to go downstairs. And then I'm kind of like standing at the door, holding my breath, hoping that there isn't a conflict at the door.
right.
But yeah, that usually works.
I'm hearing you say a lot of like setting the limit, doing this like kind of what Jane was saying, like demand, but from the if perspective. Like if you are willing, like if you're gonna do this from your freedom, then I'm going to do this from my freedom.
Yeah.
And so it's still like free will choice, but outlining that this is what is gonna lead to.
Yeah. Yeah. There's this yeah, that's a really, really useful tactic that I've used since they were little. Like, oh, you don't want to leave the park, you want to have a fit and be incredibly difficult. Okay, so then we can go home and go to bed. Oh, you don't want to go home and go to bed? Then be nice and we'll go home and do something fun. So it's terribly manipulative. I'm not super proud of it, but it's a tactic I've engaged since they were little. Yeah.
So do you have, as now that you have heard all of us, would you change your initial strategy, or would you basically stick with
I would probably just add to it watching my words. And I think when I did my little piece, I didn't really flesh out kind of how I would make clear my expectations. So I think maybe I would add that. And I think maybe a little bit of the I'm not a doormat in terms of making sure that I wasn't me who was always dealing with the consequences of this behavior, and that there was some good boundaries around that, and me not having to always clean up or deal with the consequences. I don't know exactly.
Cool, thank you. All right, next case.
Do we want
Kelly, you want to go next? Scenario, and you can then tell us from the cards below which ones you would want to choose.
I texted you the cards, Kelly.
Yes, thank you, Jane. I just saw that. So did you draw a question? Is that what you're?
Yeah, so here's a question for you. 17-year-old Lamar is spending 2 to 3 hours per day playing video games. He gets his homework and other chores done. He is never violent.
I have one of those. And I don't know. I mean, that I point out the reality there. I just, I sort of, the reality of, I don't really know how to deal with this one either, because this is a huge issue for me. I mean, I think the reality of being on video games or the computer, as much as my son is unhealthy, but he's pretty addicted. So he doesn't care about my reality or the reality or what I think is the reality. You know what I mean? He's just so beyond reality with his addiction to video games. And
15 minutes, a half hour,
I mean, when he was younger, we timed it and everything. We timed it and we had consequences and all sorts of things, a lot more structure. So Lamar, he's 17, he's getting his work done. I don't know. Like for me, that's a choice that my son has made that I feel like at 17, 18, I'm no longer in charge of. I mean, I could shut off the Wi-Fi or something. I don't do that kind of thing anymore. I did that when he was younger.
Are there any other strategies out of the cards that you may want to use besides pointing out reality?
I mean, I've put in my 2 cents and I've tried to watch my words, although that's an ongoing one. And take back the reins is just something that I don't do any longer, or in a 17-year-old case, haven't. It's something that I let go, honestly.
Want to go around the circle?
Yeah.
So my daughter doesn't play video games, but she does. She's always got her phone in her face. So we talk about similar. So I guess the approach that I have taken hasn't always worked. So if I were to try to redirect it, so the adult to adult relationship and pointing out the reality just of talking to her about the negative impact of spending so much time on the phone, and also talking about the addiction piece, and then kind of relating with her that I understand how hard it is, and that it's not that I want to punish her, or that it's not even necessarily something he's intentionally doing wrong. It's just the nature of this beast. That they're highly addictive, just like video games. And then maybe trying to let her decide, so what other activities could we be engaging in? Maybe we can talk about it, and if you can't find something, maybe together I can help you find something that might be a better way to spend your time. Not taking the phone away or the video games away altogether, but maybe for part of that time you could be doing something else.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree. I think I would, point out the reality in a sense of asking them to look at what would balance that kind of activity, like how much time are they spending outside or being physically active with their body, and then could it be a person and be like, I know for me, like it doesn't even have to be TV, because I think that they just feel like so attacked about that all the time. But for me, if I sit and read a book for too long, which is just as equally an easy escape, my back feels stiff. I feel uncomfortable. Like my body tells me in ways that it's not healthy to be sedentary for that long. And they're young and more resilient. They don't get stiff. No. But eventually they will, and then we'll be really battling a genuine addiction. When they're like, oh my God, it really hurts me, but I have to do it anyway.
Right. Seems to me like you're really trying to point out reality.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think so. And I think maybe the be a person or the adult-to-adult relationship, like kind of along the lines of what you were saying, like I'd like to spend some time with you, or like when you're in your room playing games so much, I miss you. I want you to be, I want to spend time doing things with you.
I wonder if that's part of like being the person, or even this one, like how you.
Yeah, I almost did that one too, thinking about that, like how other people maybe miss you from the family if you're not present because you're doing the games.
That's true. Yeah, that is something.
Yeah, and Kelly,
Well, as a-
not
as a-
necessarily for the
as a-
exercise, but for you personally, something that I try and do is invite them to do things with me. Like, do you want to come help me make dinner? Do you want to come to the grocery store? Do you want to do this? Do you want to do that? Knowing full well that they're going to say no 9 times out of 10, but I think it's
Yeah.
the act of inviting them into kind of the family realm that makes them say yes that 10th time, and then if it's just that once that they stop doing the other.
Right. Do you have girls or boys?
Both. Yeah, the oldest are boys.
Yeah, that's really hard.
Yeah, and I
It's
have a
hard.
girl whose therapist just told him, maybe you can look at putting some of that passion and energy into the real world.
Nice.
Yeah. They eventually hear it from other people.
Okay, so Kelly, you have
Yes.
heard a variety of different responses. How would you proceed? Like, what would be because she's this Lamar.
Yeah, I like the idea of inviting back into the family a bit. Even though I do that a bit. Not as much as I could though. I like the idea of doing that more for him, who's gotten used to being in his cave, you know.
Do you want to do you want to kind of role play right now and just basically say what you have said? What you would have said?
To my son.
Yeah.
Or to the fictional role play.
Or the Lamar.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's say this is Lamar.
I also like I miss you. I like to be with you. I've been doing that one lately too. I've definitely been trying to take these different tacks, you know. I guess I would,
It's too weird.
yeah, Lamar, I'd love you to come. They don't like doing things with you at this age though, really. I mean, my 18-year-old doesn't, he works and he does his own thing. I mean, 17's kind of close to that too, I mean.
Wait, come back. So you gotta say what you want to say, not make up excuses for not saying it.
It's putting you on the spot.
I know. I mean, I guess I don't fully know how to do this. You mean just say, Lamar, would you like to come help me with dinner? Would you like to come hang out with us? Would you like? I mean, I'm thinking of all these in my own situation and all the no's. Would you like to go away for the weekend with us? And see the Celtics game and blah 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 blah. I don't know. I've done these things. So I've gotten a lot of no's.
Okay.
Yeah. But you just keep trying.
Trying.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's a good reminder not to give up, because I've given up pretty much.
Yeah.
It's a good reminder not to give up. It's a good reminder to let them know they're still part of the family.
Right.
Yeah. So I miss you. I'd love you to sit here and chat with me and have dinner with me, actually.
Yeah.
And not the video game. Yeah.
Yeah.
I wonder
Where you're gonna
too,
leave your dishes in your room.
right?
Yeah.
What the difference would be for your son to hear "would you like" versus "how do you feel" or "I would love you to" or "I'd really love you to come make dinner with me" versus
Would you like sounds a little bit more distant. It's like I'm trying to pull you away versus I would love for you to come join me in doing that. It sounds very personal and kind of hard to creating connection.
I wonder, yeah.
You think the I'd love to is hard to create connection in?
Well, I'm wondering if, because I have, again, with my own daughter, I'm always trying to, she's always in her room. I'm always trying to pull her out. And, I used to kind of, hey, do you want to do this? And now I've realized, because she's always saying no, now I've realized I'm starting to say more, I'd really love it if you did this thing with me. And sometimes
Yeah.
out of guilt, which works for me.
Right, because at least she's still doing it.
Right. She's still doing it.
And there's the benefit of that.
Yeah.
And when she's out, she's like, yeah, fine, I'm having a good time, whatever. It's just like whatever I can do to pull her out of her room.
Yeah.
But
And you do get her out sometimes.
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 Thank you.
Yeah. And I think also like giving them the space to be like cranky and
Yeah.
sulky and rotten about, you know, it's like turning the tables on my 4-year-old.
Oh gosh.
Right?
Yeah.
There's a good 10-minute tantrum and I ignore that. And then she's like perfectly
fine.
lovely and like can entertain herself
Right.
and is in the kitchen and she's a normal human
like
again.
she
But
remembers
she
how to be
needs
herself
that like
Yeah. Yeah, Alma still at 15 is the same way.
yeah. Lots
Very
and lots
similar.
of parents.
All right. Thank you guys. So,
Okay.
do you want to
That
choose
was
next?
it was a purposeful strategy to get
16-year-old
attention.
Penny. So 16.
Thank you. Thank you.
16-year-old Penny finds out her best
It was not
friend has
conscious.
cancer.
Yeah.
She turns to you, curls up in a ball, and sobs. This is so sad.
That the kind
Um,
how could you get that?
Yeah, I think in that situation, I would just, yeah, I guess adult to adult, just try to connect with her as a young woman that just found out that her best friend has cancer. Not talk, just be there and listen.
Yeah, that's permanent. And will not
Okay, I don't know that it's right, but I would, you know, after kind of talking and asking, you know, what's scary about that, or what's sad about that, or what do you think about that, or what do you know about that, then maybe share some reality, because there might be some like bigger fears,
Right.
just out of inexperience or
Right. So talking about the reality of what Penny's facing and what that means for Alma as her friend, and how to support her, right? Fears that she might have about.
Seems like you're pointing to this part, pointing out what the friend may be feeling, how she may be.
Right.
But I think, like you said, Jenna.
Yep.
First, like just
and listening.
Right.
and
Just
like
being
you were
there.
saying too,
Yeah.
just that piece has to have
Yeah.
enough time to really
Right.
be,
Right.
play itself out.
Yeah.
And then
right, once kind
Right,
of
the
move through that
reality.
initial grief, then
Yeah.
kind of getting into the deeper conversation.
Yeah.
What
And
does
maybe
this
being
mean?
a person in there, maybe, sharing your own, just,
Yeah.
wow, this
Right.
is really sad for me too.
Right.
Like,
Absolutely. Right. And then, once again moving past that initial grief, letting her decide how do you what is comfortable moving forward?
Yeah.
How would you want to support your friend? And what does that look like? No, Jenna still has to.
Are they done?
Yeah.
Okay. We can. I
Kelly,
don't
you
have to
wanna,
leave, because I actually have to leave by like 5:15.
You want to go next, Kelly?
Okay. I think too I'm just pulling up the cards. Pointing out how the other person feels, but also, I mean, there's also reality, like some of the realities of what someone's going through in that. So,
Right.
Yeah, just being supportive in so many ways, encouraging her to make herself available and being there through treatments and being there through all the fears and needing to talk and losing hair and, all of the pain and fear that goes with it. And just encouraging, being supportive through all of that. And yeah, being there for her.
Thank you.
Okay. So,
Would you like to say how you would actually say it?
So Yeah, I think I would just say, you know, this is really awful. I'm so sorry to hear that.
Sorry. Hey, I'm gonna let them out. Come on.
And let me know what for you during this time. Because I think for the sort of person who it's traumatic, so just reminding her that while she's supporting her friend, to make sure that she's also taking care of herself and letting her know that you know, that will be my job. I can take care of this, and she needs taken care of while she's taking care of her friend.
Once in a while,
Thank you.
Okay, so I think I'm gonna skip to the because they're wrapping up, and I think we're all trying to wrap up. And I know
I think you could totally do one. If we wanted to like go until 5:15.
Are we gonna do another like all come back together as a group, or just
Yeah, go for one.
Thank you for coming.
Okay, great. I'd say it's time for you to start. Perfect. Oh, we've already done that one. That's daily.
I think he's not done.
Okay, so I suspect 13-year-old Brielle is cutting herself. She wears long sleeve shirts even when it is hot and spends long periods in the bathroom. You aren't sure, but you've seen what seems to be scars on her arms. So
Did you hear that, Kelly?
If somebody who wears long sleeve shirts, maybe you're suspecting her of cutting. Is that the?
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah.
I would adult to adult and
Every community breaks down.
watch my words. And I don't know if it's point out reality or put in your 2 cents, but suggest that if, you know, so I guess in the adult to adult, I would just confront her and ask her, you know, if you feel like this is something that's going on, is this something that's going on, or is this something that you would talk to me about? And if not, then I would say, you know, there are people that you could talk to about that. And also within the Point Out Your Reality, talk a little bit about kind of like the risks and complications that can come from breaking your skin. And I guess I would be a person and say that that felt like scary to me. Like that felt like something that somebody shouldn't be handling on their own, and that if I wasn't the person that she wanted to talk to, that I would want to help her find someone else. And then for some time, I would let them decide and just kind of check back in. That's okay, from time to time, and see, you know, and just kind of gauge, like, did it look like it was becoming more risky or serious or scary, or did it look like maybe things were getting better and they were sort of reflecting, or they maybe dropping hints that they wanted to talk to somebody else.
Cool. I'm going for take back the reins, because I would say treatment, and I would definitely engage in professional help with that if I felt that that was the situation. Just because I feel like you have that risk of harm, and so often it's not just you know, a self-harming behavior, but there's going to be other underlying issues going on that support. But I would do it with all of this other really beautiful stuff that you just said.
Right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But that's just
That would be like the
I'd
last
be like,
piece
no, if
and
my child was cutting, I would definitely get professional help.
Yeah.
Just be
Yeah. I mean, I guess I say that all of that from the perspective of somebody who built his own tattoo gun, and I suspected this and pretty much knew what was going on, but didn't have any evidence of it. And I know that that's very different than cutting, but it was a brief moment in time, and then things moved on. And so it did feel like there was a little bit of space to be like, okay, how far are you in it? And
it wasn't coming from self-harm, to soothe.
Yeah, and I haven't personally ever had to do. Well, that's not true. My son, like carved a flower in a egg, which I dude, what's that about? But again, it wasn't anything progressive or continuing. So
Yeah, but if you're willing to take the concept, so what difference does
Kelly, do you have? Oh,
I'm sorry, I had to deal with my dogs, so they weren't barking.
that's fine. Do you have anything to contribute?
No, I feel like everything that was said is something I would do. And that is, I actually have a friend going through that with her daughter, and I'm at a loss. It's really intense, you know. I don't know. I mean, I agree with everything and the seek professional help for sure, you know.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I agree with, everything that you said, and then also following it up with making sure that we were seeking treatment right away, because
his own impact based on his
I would not I would not be able to support her in the way she needs or something like that if it was Alma. Yeah.
Thank you.
yeah, I don't know where it would fall in here, but my oldest often regularly engaged in risky behaviors. And my immediate go-to every time was to make him write an essay, do some research and write an essay on the risks of that behavior. He's well versed in risk behavior.
That was a good exercise.
He's also a very adventurous young man.
So do you want to practice saying?
Yeah, okay, so I would say, Riel, I have a feeling that something's going on, and I notice that you're wearing long sleeves to cover it up, and I don't want to ask you to expose your body to me, but I wonder if you're doing that because you're cutting yourself or hurting yourself. And that feels really scary to me because I happen to know that these are the risks and these are some things that can happen. And so I feel like we need to talk about it or find someone that you can talk to about it if I'm not that person. Because that just feels like a boundary that's too scary to cross along.
That's a great, I like that too, because just saying that's a boundary that's too scary to cross alone. It's like you're offering support, or you're giving her, you're empowering her, like speaking out. Like what it feels like when you word it that way. It's okay. This is too much to handle.
Because I can't imagine it's not. I mean, that's part of it. Right? That's part of doing it. It's that
so out
it
of
feels
control. It's the one way to control of your feedback. For some, that's
The way you worded it was really nice, and it brought it out into like this is maybe more than a parent-child relationship.
Right.
We really need, to some assistance.
Right.
Right. It's
Right.
really about helping.
Right. And we'll see.
And as a parent,
together.
right? Yeah.
So much guilt
Support.
around
Yeah.
kind of writing this. All the things
Absolutely.
It was, sociopathic things like.
Okay, well, that was fun.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And it just really gets the brain slipping in.
Did we get back
That
to you?
was so intense for him to go by her.
Oh,
yeah. Oh yeah. Hey Jane. she had that on hold thing that you wanted to come
What was
back
it
to.
again?
We were just kind of reflecting on when it seems like discipline is in order. I was saying, you know, I feel like my child's phone is the only thing that really matters to her. And so in moments, you know, just feeling at my wit's end, I feel like if I need her to understand how serious it is and how serious I am about this behavior needing to change.
Using your phone more than you think of another
Well, no, just the
like
just
I like
discipline, you know, just in
For
some
what? A consequence.
well, yeah, thank you, a consequence.
for what?
Well, I think the most recent situation. Okay, so just not doing her schoolwork, like just you know, I'll do it, and then the end of the week comes and she's got 3 zeros, and because I'm also staying for like daily life and not checking in every day about
So
homework.
on one end you have the consequence kind of
Yeah.
thing, on the other end you have the I'm out of here thing, right? So it's like the baby falling down the stairs. You don't want her to fall down the stairs, but you don't want to be grabbing onto her with the consequences in a way where she doesn't have her own. So the question here is like how do you come in the middle, which is how old is she?
15.
15. So
Freshly 15.
how is it for you? Like, can we have a discussion? Would you be willing to have a discussion around the schoolwork thing and noticing that you're not doing it? You know, you can tell me why, or is it too hard for you? Is it needed? It's so irrelevant. Like, what's going on? How might we solve this problem together? How much do you care about it? Do you think about your people? Sitting next to her, and you don't have to go to one and then together.
Sort of different, but in the nature of coming together, like there are, you know, however you guys call it, or just different parental control. But you know, because some kids will use their music, you know,
Right,
as
well,
a
right,
self-soothing, or so if you're feeling,
music,
then you can turn off everything except for
Right.
music or something. But
has figured out how to remove every parental control we've ever.
Yeah,
Either
maybe
she has or a friend has helped her.
that might be a good symbol for generally wanting to move parental control.
Right.
Yeah, like you really need to get out of the mode of I'm controlling you
Right.
and move into like,
And
I
I
love
want
you.
to.
I'm concerned about you. What can
Yeah.
having a discussion. She, you know what? It takes your child's life when they're 4 and they're all of a sudden you're going to have some boundaries, and there's sort of this 2 week that goes on where they're used to like you're actually going to tell them what to do and be the authority and be a parent and stuff, and they're like used to doing whatever they want. But then in the same way, there's like this little time period where you're like, you know what? You're 15. You can make your decisions, and she'll probably still go. Are you gonna make me?
Mm-hmm.
What are you gonna do about it? You know, like that kind of thing. Are you gonna punish me and not really make her own decision? Just be like, you're the one who has to because she's still she doesn't
Right.
know about this new way. No, you're 15. You can make wise decisions. Would you like to discuss it? I'll help you make that decision. Let's look at the pros and cons. Let's maybe research. What are the options you can think of? Oh, what do you think might be the consequence of that option? Things like that's how the discussion together. I'm by your side.
Yeah, well, and I would also add that, and then come up to an agreement. Come to like, okay, great. So you really don't. What I'm hearing you say, you really don't want to get zeros on this, right? You've got so many things pulling you. Okay, so we develop a strategy, and that the strategy is that you check in with her at the end of each day, or at the end of the week, and then when you check in and the agreement is not met, this paper on Thursday and this one on Friday.
What stopped?
What stopped you?
Mm-hmm.
What's the new agreement we're going to set? I want to help you accomplish your goals. Help you as much as you want in lots of ways. can get you a tutor. I can sit down with you and do the work with you. You know, I can just remind you gently when you come home, hey, let's do an hour of work. Let's get it. What was that agreement?
And then how do you get them to the point of personal accountability? Because my kids will tell you all kinds of excuses. One day.
Point out the
Yes,
reality.
so the fact that they're saying is not their fault
Yeah.
indicates to me that, I was saying about the teacher, the punitive mindset and the
That's what
healing mindset, right?
Yeah.
The fact that they're saying, and it might not be your intention, but it sounds like they're hearing blame, shame, right, wrong, good, bad, should, you ought to, all those kind of words. They're hearing that.
Yeah, but even if you were to sit down and say, so what were the boundaries that prevented you? We had this agreement, you were going to do it on Thursday, then you were going to do it on Friday, and now here it is, it's Friday evening, and none of it's been done. So what prevented you from, I mean, my kids would tell you for days on end into months what prevented them from getting there.
Great, then brainstorm with them.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you forgot. Oh, what might you do so you don't forget next time? I don't know, I put an alarm on my phone. Okay, that sounds good. That sounds like a wise move. Whatever it is, I could put a post-it on my nose. You know, what can you do to prevent it from happening again? Not just being careful not to get into this with them. You did it wrong, you're bad, you know.
Yeah.
And it will take a while for them to make that move. They're going to hear you controlling, judging, because that's what they're expecting. But you have to steadfastly, don't go there. And after a while, they'll go into the new mode of adult to adult. Sort of like you're here, you go into an adult, and they're going to still be going like this, but there's no one there fighting with them. And then they'll go here with you.
So what I'm hearing you say is that basically try to problem solve every single excuse that they come up with. Like just sort of like circumvent like every single thing and just kind of disarm them so they don't have those shields to put up anymore.
Right. Yeah, there's no, you're bad, wrong, that wasn't, you shouldn't.
Well, that strategy didn't work because you went and played. You went and played football with your friends for 2 hours. That was a lot of fun. You didn't do your work. That was a good strategy to have fun, but it was not a good strategy to get your work done.
How can we have fun and get your work done at the same time?
That's why the NBC thing about really understanding what the need is and what the strategy is, and where the strategies become, a lot of strategies are not effective in longer term. They're very effective in a minute. You want to relax, have a glass of wine. If you have 3 glasses of wine every night, that's not probably a healthy strategy. But you know.
But then thinking about the excuses is that if we're in resistance to their excuses and we stay feeling like, oh, that's just an excuse, we're not moving forward. But like you're saying, if we start to be like, oh, okay, let's go with it, lean into it, then you're getting.
Didn't help you get the work done.
Yeah, so if you're thinking of it as an excuse, there's an implication when you use that word. You're seeing me, I'm the child, as being manipulative. You're seeing me as trying to be bad. And
no, I'm seeing you as irresponsible. I'm seeing you as negligent, which you actually were.
Yes, so that's the thing is they're not responsible. They weren't born that way. And so that's what they're trying to develop. What does it mean to be responsible? So you can say you're responsible in a judgmental
that's
way,
my question, and you're answering my question. You're telling me I need to stop like engaging in that vicious cycle and let them kind of identify that personal responsibility on their own, which is madness.
Well, maybe not on their own, but with you supporting them. Oh, it looks like you're having a little trouble being responsible here. How can we do it differently? Rather than judging them as irresponsible. Like there could be a way of saying you're irresponsible, like you're bad, you suck, you know. But then all they're going to do is this. There's a difference between shame and guilt. Shame is you suck, and the reaction is aggression or hiding. Guilt is pointing out that an action you did hurt your future self or someone else. Well, the guilt wakes you up to that. And in some brains, it doesn't click, and then it just clicks in, and I think it's a developmental thing with the brain. So it points out, they're like, "Look, guilt. What am I going to do about it?" So we don't want shame because that's just aggression and hiding. We do want guilt, which is what you're going to do about it.
It seems to me like you're also saying, indirectly saying, sort of playing a naive person in some way, where it's like you just keep rolling with like whatever they send to you. You're just like, okay, so that's this, yeah. So like, what are we gonna do? And like being like this naive and rolling with that, basically, again, disarming them. Like that word just keeps coming up
getting
for
out of
me.
the fight.
It's like open
get a
to
little
the
bit-
curiosity.
Yeah,
Curiosity, like,
exactly.
within themselves. They're like, oh,
You
why
can get,
didn't I do?
you can be
Right,
playful. It's like,
anything
oh,
else
that was a
supposed to-
brilliant strategy. That was a brilliant strategy. Not get your work done. Wow, that took a lot to really think about that. You did that great. Would you
Let's
like to do
apply
something?
that brilliance to.
Yeah, right. There's actually a lot of, when you look at the brilliance of strategies, that's the fun thing. It really does meet needs. Whatever need they're doing, they're trying to meet another need, and that's also helpful too.
Yeah.
What? Okay, I hear that's what you're saying is an excuse. What did that choice give you?
Yeah.
Oh, I had fun with my friends. Got it.
Yeah.
Great.
Honor the need. Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
That's so powerful.
How can you do both?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
honor your need for fun. I'm not going to shame you for trying to meet your need for fun. I'm on board with you to meet
Yeah.
your need for fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. Are you on board with me that you also want to
Right.
be confident or something like that?
Yeah. Yeah.
I once gave this little with you remember Cassandra was 15.
Oh,
And she had a pretty
She
rigid
came out with
stepdad. Anyway, but she was really struggling with the fact that she was now in that adolescent brain where she just wanted to stay up a little later. I mean, they were in bed by 9:30 and up at 6 doing work and chores. And she just wanted to sleep in a little longer, be able to stay up a little later than her younger sisters. But she said, I tried to talk, they just won't listen. I said, here's the thing. Go online and research the neurobiology of what they're saying about adolescence.
Right.
And put the whole premise together for your stepdad.
Yeah.
And she did. She wrote this whole 1.5-page paper.
Yes.
And he came back and he went, yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Okay.
Okay, what are we going to negotiate? And all she got was an extra hour at night to stay up, only to like 10, which isn't a lot for a 15-year-old, and to sleep in an extra hour. But she got her needs met by making the case. And if you empower kids to really dig into their own understanding
And be able to articulate it is a huge skill.
We're not taught this in schools, and not a lot of necessarily parents are constantly teaching their kids when they're 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Hey, what I see you're feeling. What are you? I can sense that you're really frustrated with your family. What do you need? Do you need a hug? You want to go out and throw a ball? And you get kids start making, oh yeah, that's going to meet that need. It's getting to that 4 freedoms, right? You start to develop that. I haven't seen that before. It was really helpful.
How great if they can advocate for their needs
Oh
in
my
their
gosh.
family, and that's the skill that then they can take out as adults to advocate for getting
And
their
it
needs
takes a little more work
Yeah.
at first.
Yeah.
You get because then you got to dig into conversation and be willing to be curious. And
Oh
take
yeah,
your
it's like
time.
5 times. Something like that. You could punish. That
But
takes 5
you've been doing it
minutes.
for a long
You
time.
could ignore. That takes no time. The conversation.
But over time,
Right.
then I think it actually gets easier because then they're able to very quickly
Then they do it themselves. Then it takes 0 time. Yeah.
or then they can tell you, say,
Well,
I just need to be listened to right now. Help me figure out what was needed.
Sadly, though, like we'll hear this, but like Will has been advocating for himself since preschool. And in,
We can't
from
do it all.
here.
We've tried.
Not from here.
You want
Right?
to try that, Jay?
well, a little of both. I mean, because I've been working on the how to do it kind of nicely and gonna get your needs met for since he was this big. And when he went to elementary school, like he was getting pretty good at it in preschool. He went to elementary school, and when he would try to advocate, like he needed more time to move around, or he needed extra time to finish reading the book before getting in line, or they would just cut him off. Then, you know, the first day of school, the librarian pulled the book out of his hand. Pulled it out of his hand.
Well, you know what? If you let's say you were, I'm giving you if you're the educator, you're the board of education, right? And here's 100 whatever, hundreds of kids, and here is their learning level. So it's a bell curve, right? Intelligence or whatever. And like you have to make a school that holds all of these kids. It's really hard for the kids who can't learn, and it's really hard for the kids whose brains are out the wazoo, and it's just not appropriate. Like he's out of the bell curve, and he needs to figure out life on his own. He's not going to fit in like ever.
It could be a good thing.
Systems.
Yeah, personally, I don't want them to really fit in.
Should we just throw on the fluorescent lights?
I have many clients who are for Christine.
Hi, Jenna. Nice to meet you.
Yeah, I'm sorry, but speaking of being irresponsible, I'll not be late. I have to run. It's been really nice.
So you're not
hanging
staying
out
for our benefit?
with
Real
all
nice-
of you.
nice to-
Thank you
Bye.
so much. Yeah. Have a good
Those
night,
are your glasses, though.
everyone. It's
So
starting
nice
now.
to meet you, Jenna.
We'll talk soon.
Yeah, this will be.
Oh!
I'm all right. I'm all right. It's
Good.
getting too
All right,
dark.
we're getting dark.
Are we saying goodnight, Jane? Jane, are we?
Yes, thank you for coming.
Thank
you very much. Thank you very much.
I'm the closure freak.
I am so not the coach.
I know you're not. It's just so funny.
Thanks, everyone.
Hey, goodbye.
It looks like a snowshoe. Thank you.
Okay.
I wasn't gonna stay for the dinner, but I wanted
Oh,
to
you're
talk
not?
about
Oh,
something.
okay.
No, that's sweet. Thank you.
Today.
Thank
I
you.
will see you. It was helpful. Let's see where it goes.
Zach.
Yes.
Oh, and I have
Bye, Kelly.
forgotten how.
He is. No, he.
Thank you for joining.
Double leave this week.
I need to get together.
Take care.
Together.
One of the people that I did like last. Oh, I did ask you that. Try to tune each other up. Yeah, because I tried my